It turns out that Bricks and Minifigs may be stealing from everyone. This may be an actual strategy to gain profit. And this is something that we've spoken of many times on the channel about how Bricks and Minifigs is stealing from this one particular person. But in actuality, we could be looking at something much, much deeper. Today, we're gonna be diving into this story. And we are on a quest to find out who else Bricks and Minifigs has been using this same strategy on all along.
Bricks and Minifigs just got exposed big time, and the evidence we have now, today, may point towards the fact that Bricks and Minifigs has been doing business like they have with Brian Mansell, Crystal Law, and Benjamin Gorman for years. And this is not just an isolated incident. This does not just happen once or twice. This might be an actual strategy Bricks and Minifigs uses when they conduct business.
Now, let me give you a quick update on what they were doing, and potentially doing this with other clients or other businesses. Essentially, they're taking over Bricks and Minifig stores that are being run improperly, and they're taking them over, taking ownership of all of the inventory that's in these stores, then utilizing that inventory and maybe the poor record keeping of that inventory to just throw the money in their pockets. And I would really love to hear more details.
So we have multiple different cases to look at, and then once we go over each of them, I'll tell you what I think the overarching pattern may be from all three of these and what it says about Bricks and Minifigs as a whole. So, case number one, we of course have the Crystal Law Gorman Salem, Oregon case. Now, outside of Brian Mansell's collection being a factor in this case, what do we know about the actual franchisee in this? You know, Crystal, how she was treated in all of this, how the takeover actually happened. And this is corroborated by Ammon. I've seen him talk about this on different interviews, and he has basically said that Crystal violated the franchising agreement. She was behind on payments, behind on rent, behind on, all these other things. And that basically gave Bricks and Minifigs the authority to come in and take it all over. So they basically show up and take everything, and they don't provide Crystal with an inventory list of what they're taking or anything like that. They just take it all. And
this is probably all inside of the initial contracts when you're looking to open up a Bricks and Minifigs organization, when you're looking to buy into that franchise. It's going to say, if you don't meet these particular requirements, we have the ability to take over your store. And this is something that's probably in many different franchise agreements. But the difference here is that Bricks and Minifigs is potentially, allegedly, taking advantage of that.
How they can do that is they're basically saying they forgive the debts that the franchisee, in this case, Crystal, owes them, but they'll take over all the inventory in the store. So they give a debt amount to whoever the franchisee is, and it's probably an exuberant amount. I think I've seen numbers in like the hundreds of thousands. In Crystal's case, I'm not sure what the exact number is, but basically Bricks and Minifigs presents a number and they say, this is what you owe us to the franchisee. And in most cases, I'd imagine it's too much for the franchisee to pay. So they say, okay, you can settle your debts with us, or we'll forgive all your debts if you just let us take over the store and all of the inventory within it.
And that probably feels like, oh, thank goodness, they're not going to make me repay the debt. And instead, all I have to do is give up my store. My business is now gone, but the debt is also gone. So a lot of people probably feel a little bit relieved by something like this.
And of course, in this case, Brian's collection mysteriously disappeared in this whole takeover process.
Right.
And that has been the major controversy with this case. But this is not the only time we've heard Bricks and Minifigs conducting business like this.
It has not been the only big part of this case, all right? Brian losing his $200,000 plus collection is a part of the case. We also have Reckless Ben, who's being silenced or was being silenced and was essentially had a gag order on him because he was getting involved in the case and exposing it. And we have all of this happening out in Utah, where there is a religion where the police, the Bricks and Minifigs people, and everyone else that was involved was trying to work together and look out for one another and really, for lack of a better word, screw the other people that were involved. So it's not just a case of stealing money. There was a lot of corruption going on as well.
here is another case, the Plastic Pallet LLC in Clackamas County, Oregon. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but this is a completely separate store, a completely separate owner, and this is the new evidence. This was presented by Benjamin Gorman. Go watch his video. He goes over, this in a lot more detail. I'm just kind of summarizing what I kind of gathered from his video. Definitely go watch it if you want to see this case specifically. But this owner in Oregon entered a franchise agreement in 2017. Everything was going well, and Bricks and Minifigs apparently violated the agreement in numerous ways. First, they began interfering with internal management at the store, so the employees there, during 2022, and they attempted to force certain members of the store to give up control. I don't know if that means the manager or what. And at one point, they allegedly inserted themselves into conversations with the landlord to get the lease terminated. So obviously that's some crazy stuff going on. And then on October 30th of 2023, Bricks and Minifigs took possession of every asset at the store.
Now, if you were to look at this and say, okay, 2 stores got taken over from an entire franchise, it wouldn't seem that abnormal. I'm sure there's tons of franchisees across the country that are not able to maintain their end of the bargain, and they give up their stores because they've been put in debt and they're not running the store well. That happens. But because of how dirty and corrupt this particular case has been, everything is just being seen in a different light.
Not sure how these debts came up exactly, but again, at one point, the owner of this Bricks and Minifigs piled up some debt to Bricks and Minifigs. Bricks and Minifigs came at them with a number obviously very high in the hundreds of thousands and kind of threatened them legally. But this is the part where, it gets kind of insane. It's just a crazy maybe coincidence, or you could call it a pattern. But the plaintiff in this case, I don't know if that means the store owner or just the person that invested money into the store for the store owner. Anyway, they were 65 years old and in poor health. So there's like this whole other case involving this store, and there are allegations of elder abuse and things like that. And I just think that's really, not funny that it happened, but it's just really interesting that we see alleged elder abuse or like elderly people getting bullied by Bricks and Minifigs in more than one occasion. I mean, you have Brian Mansell's father, and then you have the plaintiff in this other case, which is just, it's kind of crazy that this is like an ongoing pattern. Anyway, basically, Bricks and Minifigs came to the store owner with the debts, said, pay us these debts. This is what you owe us. The store owner, obviously, like the debts were probably a lot. The store owner probably couldn't afford that. And so Bricks and Minifigs, of course, offered an alternative and said, well, all is forgiven if you just let us have the store and all of the inventory and assets within it. And another interesting quote-unquote coincidence in this is the damages that are claimed in this lawsuit. So I presume that means, the store owner says that the damages are this much from Bricks and Minifigs taking over the store and everything, all the assets. The damages are $200,000 in this other case. Some neurons are like firing in my brain. That number sounds really familiar. I think I've seen it somewhere else before.
I'm wondering if they decide that they have enough value in the store to profit by a certain amount, 100 in this case, $200,000, and they notice that if they take over this store because it's been just not functioning properly according to guidelines, they can make $200,000 because of consignment or other types of inventory that they can instantly just put inside of their pockets, rejuvenate the store and keep it running or sell it to someone else. It's very strange that $200,000 amount pops up yet again.
I don't know though. But let's move on to case 3. And in case 3, this is by the store owner's name is Gabe. He's in Florida, and this is a third completely separate franchise owner. And the same exact thing happened, or a very similar thing happened. This store was profitable with high inventory for a while, and Bricks and Minifigs secretly logged every missed payment they had verbally told Gabe was fine. So basically, Gabe missed some payments to corporate, I'm assuming, and corporate told him, in person, maybe over the phone, said, hey, Gabe, it's okay that you missed 1 or 2 payments. We're not going to hold it against you. It's on us. seemingly offering that really nice, kind, professional courtesy. But then behind Gabe's back, they used those missed payments to manufacture a high debt. They claimed $12,000 in unpaid royalties, $80,000 in unpaid franchise fees, and $71,000 in liquidated damages. And
that's an insane amount. $80,000 in franchise fees. Now, I know that franchise fees can be very high, but that is a very large franchise fee. I'm really curious as to how long Bricks and Minifigs was saying that Gabe client in Florida wasn't paying, because I mean, let's assume that it's $3,000 a month of franchise fee. It's $70,000, $80,000. That's years of not paying the fees. That being said, maybe they are higher, but that would seem a little bit astronomical for a Lego store.
And they sent a termination letter to Gabe via Denton's, which is the same law firm that is handling the current Bricks and Minifigs case, by the way. And the letter, interestingly enough, offered to waive the entire $163,000 debt if Gabe simply handed over the store and all its assets. So, judging from these three separate isolated cases, here is the pattern I'm kind of recognizing. This is just my opinion, but this is what I see happening here. So, first of all, you sell the franchise, this location, to someone motivated and hardworking. They take it over. And then Bricks and Minifigs violates the agreement early on by letting them miss payments and saying it's all good. Not in writing, but they tell them in person, like over the phone, just by word of mouth, it's all good. Don't worry about these missed payments. Then you secretly log every missed payment that you verbally approved. And then you watch them build up the store, watch the inventory grow, you watch their customer base grow, you watch the value of the store overall just growing. And as soon as it reaches a point that you are satisfied with, you manufacture a crisis. You claim that they owe impossible amounts in royalties, fees, and liquidated damages. And technically, there is some truth in that because they did miss payments, which...
Yeah, and that's something I was going to say as well. These people are missing payments in one way or the other. Whether some of it's being fabricated or exaggerated on, the owners are missing payments, which is bad business, in my opinion. I don't know how someone will miss payments. By the way, I was just looking up, what's the initial franchise fee for a Bricks and Minifig store? And it's $40,000 for that initial jump into Bricks and Minifigs, and then your total initial investment is between $240,000 and $570,000. Liquid capital required is $75,000, and minimum net worth is $175K. Additionally, ongoing costs include a 6% royalty fee and a 1 to 4% advertising national brand fund fee. So it can't be more than a couple of $1,000s per month in ongoing monthly fees to wear the Bricks and Minifigs name.
They were told is all good. But my opinion is these values that Bricks and Minifigs is giving to these franchisees for the debt are heavily inflated and not 100% truthful. And then you threaten them with a legal war that they probably can't afford if they don't agree to pay for the damages.
And that's a scare tactic, right? Just to scare them away, threaten the lawsuit. They're already in a little bit of financial distress. They're going to back down to the big corporate monster.
$160,000, $200,000, whatever it may be. But you offer them the ultimatum, the clean slate, that you will forget everything that they owe if they just hand over the store. And then you take a fully stocked, profitable store and resell it to a new franchisee, and you just repeat that. And we've seen the same law firm in this multiple times, the same language used, these franchising agreements and these letters, and the same outcome every time. So to go back on what Ammon was claiming in the Bricks Minifigs blog post the other day, this doesn't appear to be an isolated incident with Brian Mansell. Maybe this exact consignment is an isolated incident, but Bricks and Minifigs handling business in this way, in this predatory way, seems like an ongoing pattern and maybe even a strategy they have going on over there.
I think it's more like a business model. At least certain people within the whole franchise are looking at this as a business model. Once a company, a Bricks and Minifigs location, builds up enough X's, they did too many things wrong, didn't make enough payments, plus they have enough inventory to equal X amount of money, they can just kind of fabricate what's owed, threaten a lawsuit, take all the product and profit on top of it. Plus, then they own the business and they can do what they want with it. If they want to sell it, if they want to utilize it and run it to make profit, they can do what they want.
And in the wise words of Josh Johnson, let's think about this logically. If you are Bricks and Minifigs, you have a franchisee that actually owes you $163,000, why would you offer to completely forgive that and take over their store? To me, there's two reasons, and they kind of work hand in hand. Reason number one is the inventory in their store is worth more than those debts, so you take a profit. You know, let's say $200,000 are in the store, you say they owe you $160,000, and you take roughly $40,000 of profit. And the second reason is because the debts that you claim that they owe are actually inflated. Let's say they owe you $50,000, but find a way to inflate that value artificially to the point where it seems unreasonable and impossible to the franchisee. So not only do they think it's really unreasonable, but they can't even afford to pay it. So they go with the only option that seems feasible in this, which is hand over the store and all the assets, all the inventory for free to Bricks and Minifigs.
And that is true. What he's saying here is he mentioned if they owe $160,000 and there's $200,000 in inventory, that's a $40,000 profit. But that initial $160,000 is an estimation, and that's highly inflated, which is probably something more like $40,000 to $50,000. So really, instead of making the $40,000 profit on the inventory, they're making $150,000 profit on inventory, because really none of this is being documented properly on either side.
Bricks and Minifigs takes a profit, gets the store back for free, as well as all the assets within it, and then they get to sell that location to a new franchisee. And look, I'm not saying any of this is confirmed. I'm just saying in these three cases, from what we've seen allegedly happening, this kind of pattern makes a lot of sense for Bricks and Minifigs and definitely matches the character that we've seen throughout this case of Ammon McNeff, Matt McNeff, Josh Johnson, Brandon Best, and everyone else involved at Bricks and Minifigs Corporate. And this definitely, to me, seems like something they could do.
And this is really crazy that it's come together with two other Bricks and Minifig locations that had a very, very similar interaction with corporate. It looks like there's some dirty business going on. There's probably more Bricks and Minifig locations that had similar experiences as well, and I'm really curious if we see some of those popping up. This is all alleged, nothing has been proven, but it all looks very fishy to me. And if you want to dive deeper into everything relating to Bricks and Minifigs, I have a complete playlist of all of the videos right here. Remember guys, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.